Welcome to the Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the Hearts Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today, listeners, I'm excited to say that we got the power of choices in healthy relationships as a subject for today. And I've got a really great expert. Her name is Shawnnell Batiste. And I want to give a warm welcome to you, Shawnnell.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here. I appreciate it.
So the power of choices in healthy relationships. Before we get stuck into that, Shawnnell, please just tell us a little bit about you and why you've ended up doing what you're doing.
Okay. I am Shawnnell Batiste, your favorite no bullshit therapist. I focus my private practice choosing empowerment on marginalized and disenfranchised communities. And those communities include Black folks, people of color, foster and adoptive communities, formerly incarcerated communities, and the LGBTQIA community. And I chose those communities because they're close to my heart. I'm a member of many of them myself. And I wanted to create an environment that, people were able to be comfortable talking to someone who looked like them or who has had some of the same experiences. So there's some things that you just don't have to explain while you're in session. And those communities often have trouble getting to therapy, be it by stigma, transportation. There's always these barriers, finances. And so I've created my practice in such a way that it starts to remove some of those barriers, and so I connect with nonprofits that share the vision, and some of them help pay for therapy. I connect with like the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation. I'm on lots of directories who do that sort of thing. And I put myself in places where those communities can find me so that they can reach a therapist that understands them. And so that's my goal. That's my purpose, is just to heal my people.
Oh, that's so excellent. It warms my heart to hear you speak, Shawnnell, because, these sorts of people, really do need that help the most, don't they? And, I really, really, really highly commend you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a hard work. It's definitely a hard work. It's not for money, even though I have to make money, but it's not for money because I know that I'm working with a community that often does not have it, and that needs to use the insurance and that needs a payment plan or, I just want to do it different. I just want to do it in a different way. So it's definitely a work from my heart.
That's commendable. So the topic for today, then, the power of choices in healthy relationships. Let's have a discussion and a talk about that. What is it that you found within your community and groups of people that you deal with that you feel is the biggest pain or challenge for them?
Well, my practice has two main premises. One is the power of choice, because we choose everything, right? And no matter how small the choice, we choose it. And I use the example all the time. When you wake up in the morning, you can choose to go to the toilet or you could pee in the bed. But who wants to pee in the bed? Because the consequences of the choice of peeing in the bed is really, it's not pleasurable, right? And so we make the choice to get up. And that's how tiny and minute each and every choice is that we make all day long, right? And so I want to show people that they have that power and they can use those choices for their benefit or for their demise, right? And so we don't always choose what happens to us, but we do choose how we respond to it and what we're going to use it for. And so, the second main premise is the power of healthy relationships, because one, I know that in the therapy arena, you're not going to talk to a therapist who you don't trust, right? That you don't have a relationship with. And because of that, I try to create an environment in my practice where I am open, right? Because they don't teach us in school to disclose. They're like, no disclosure, no disclosure. And so, but I'm like, how can you build a relationship with someone if you don't give them some of you? Relationships are reciprocal,
Yes.
right? It's a give and take. And so I can't sit in a position, quote unquote, of power, right? And like, tell me all of your stuff, but you don't get to know me at all, right? And so I want my clients to be able to get to know me, from top to bottom. Understand that, hey, I've had depression and I have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I have ADHD, so I understand it completely. I get it. I'm living it, right? If I don't disclose those things. And I guess the premise from school is, if they know too much about you, y'all gonna get too close. You're not gonna be able to be biased, and stuff, unbiased and stuff like that. But I find just the opposite. I find that people trust you more when they know more about you. You know, I can do marriage counseling because I've been married and divorced,
Yeah, yeah.
So I can talk about, what mistakes I found in that, or how I grew from that, or it's not just book knowledge, and people don't tend to believe just book knowledge. It's the experience, the lived experience, right? And so sharing that builds that relationship and makes me closer to my clients, and then they share everything, and then I can help because I know all the details, right? I'm not judgmental because I'm just like you. I'm just like you and all that. So that and to have the choice of that relationship, right? Like the choices that we make every day includes the choices and relationships that we have, right? And how we navigate those things. And so the importance of making healthy choices in relationships, which is hard when you're hurting. And it's hard when you're going through stuff. It's hard when you're seeking something and you don't even know exactly what that thing is. But that's part of what I help people do in therapy, is be able to see the places that they're empty and why they're choosing the relationships that they're choosing.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for explaining that. And I do agree with you. It is about building relationships and being vulnerable and being open yourself to help people realize that they don't actually know this consciously sometimes, but it helps to create that safe space, doesn't it?
Right.
And that feeling of this person is just like me. So
Right.
therefore I feel
Yeah.
I know them and I can trust them and I can share.
Yes. And safety seems to be at the core of every issue. Of every issue. We are all looking for safety. We're all looking to feel protected. We're all looking to feel safe, and so we choose our relationships based in that. And it's usually because we're missing something from childhood.
Hmm.
Parenting is hard, and it's hard when you had trauma, and it's hard when you don't know anything. And so parents do the best that they can. So there's usually some missing pieces, more for others than some. And so in doing that, you grow up and you're like, oh well, I didn't get hugged a lot. I like physical touch. That's my love language. I need to find somebody that likes to touch me. you know,
Yes. Yeah.
but you might find the wrong person that likes to touch you because they don't have the other qualities that you really need, but you're seeking the thing that you're missing, right? So you end up in a relationship where, is that's not healthy because it's unbalanced.
Why do you think, what do you think are some of the reasons that, for example, like you say, we can't blame parents because regardless of whether you've got good, bad, or indifferent experiences of parenthood, they did the best they can with the knowledge and resources that they had, and they probably didn't have the best upbringing
Right.
if you felt you didn't get the best upbringing. So, why do you think it is that if we know logically in our minds that we want love and a healthy relationship, that so many of us attract the opposite?
I think that we're programmed in such a way that media, you see things on TV, you see the image of what you believe that you want, right? And rather than individualizing, like we're not brought up to be individuals, right? We're brought up follow the status quo and, do what everybody else is doing. And this is the way we do things. And I think if we were more, this is what I need personally, right? And or we're able to be honest with ourselves. But honesty also does not pay. It doesn't not beneficial to be honest with yourself because people make fun of you or they make you feel like an outcast or it hurts to have to be honest for the most part. Which is why safe spaces are important to be able to say, hey, I'm hurting, I got daddy issues or mama issues, or I didn't get what I needed, or so if you're able to be honest about what you need, then you can seek that which you need in a person, right? But again, much of it is subconscious. It's subconscious. We don't know why I reach out for this particular person and for this particular thing, right? Which I love. I love, reading research things and looking at the bigger picture of things, plus how our brain and body works, right? You seek that what you need, right? I looked up a few weeks ago. I think I was like craving red meat, and I was like, "What's your body saying?" When you're craving red meat, well, you might be low on iron. Cool. Well, you don't have to use red meat to get iron. You can get it from other places. So I think the same with the emotions and the soul, right? I'm craving a thing. I don't necessarily have to use a maladaptive way to get that thing. I can use a healthy way. But if I don't know, I don't know, right?
That's true. Yeah, we probably haven't had healthy role models to to watch and observe within our own personal relationships, be that from parents, carers, or even in schools.
Right.
Our
And I think
education system.
some of it is just naturally going to come with age, but open-mindedness and being willing, right? I have several clients who, you know, they seek to change. They seek to fix the thing that's within them and understand that it's a process and it's going to take some time, right? And so that means they're picking away at the things a little bit at a time, right? Because it's usually not just one thing.
Hmm.
Um, I married someone who mimicked the type of love my mom gave me, which was maladaptive. It was a it was a not a give and take, but um, it was more of a I love you, be my baby, I love you, and then back off, right? And so it was back and forth and not consistent. And so I ended up marrying someone who was the same way. Hey, I'm here. I love you. I'm all into you. And then when it was time to take things to the next level, or they were feeling real feelings, or something else was happening that things were supposed to get closer, they ran, right? And so I didn't realize that until after I was divorced and years later in therapy. My therapist was like, you don't see the parallel? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And so she helped me to be able to match that up. That's just what was comfortable for my body and for my mind, because that's just what I grew up with. That was my standard, right?
Yeah.
And so we take those things subconsciously. I mean, from birth until 7 or 8 years old, you're just in sponge mode. You're just sucking in everything that you're sucking in, and that gets deposited in your subconscious. And so that's how you live your life, based upon those rules and standards. And this is how I am programmed, right? This is what love looks like for me. So until you experience something different, you don't know anything different. And that's how most of us navigate our lives and still start picking away at the things that are not working. You know, if you continue to end up in relationships that just are not what is the common denominator? It's me, but what is it about me? Why do I keep attracting the same type of person? Because for most people's history, you can look through your past and see you were attracted to the same type of person in a different body.
Yeah.
But it's because that's the same thing that you're seeking. You haven't figured out how to fill that space. And so you're seeking in other people.
Absolutely. And it's not to worry, if you've had failed relationships in the past, we all learn something from those. And also being single is a good time to actually work on yourself to make sure you don't keep attracting the same
right.
patterns in another person going forward, isn't it?
Yes. And it's troublesome for some people because, again, we've been trained to, go to school, go to college, find your life mate, get married, buy a house, have 2 kids, and a dog and a cat and a picket fence, right? And so we're programmed so much in find your person when we need to find ourselves first, right? Nobody talks about that growing up. Like, and I talk a lot about what I call Cinderella syndrome, princess syndrome, right? And little girls are just taught to grow up and find your prince, right? He
Yeah.
will rescue you from the tower and all that kind of stuff. And so it gives us this mentality that that's what we're supposed to be doing rather than seeking self first. What do I like? What do I enjoy? You know, um, what brings me pleasure? And so because if you don't know yourself, you like how you gonna tell or display what you enjoy to the other person, right?
And I know for me, when I was growing up, Chanel, and I don't know if it was the same for you, but my parents were very, very strict. And my mother, particularly, was always first to say, if I said I wanted anything, she'd always say, I want, don't get. So I got my
Wow.
I want trained out of me.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Exactly. And so we learned not to, or the notion of don't be selfish. Don't
Yes.
be selfish. Don't be share your toys. Share the thing. But what if this is my special toy? I don't want nobody touching my stuff. you know. And we should have had that autonomy to be able to say no, right? But as kids, like you're not allowed to say no to anybody. Definitely not your parents. But like if you're saying no, if you're saying don't touch my things, or you're saying, that's mine, again, that's trained out of you because it's selfish, right? And so then we grow up taking care of other people and not ourselves because that's selfish. Well, it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to be selfish. It's
It
not okay to
is.
be self-serving because
Mm.
I
There is a
separated
difference.
that. It's self-serving is different than selfish, right? Selfish is taking care of me first so that I can be myself with other people. My love language is acts of service, and I am a server, right? I enjoy taking care of people. Part of it, I believe, is really ingrained in me that that's who I am as a person, and that's how I was born. Part of it is childhood trauma because I took care of my mama's kids, right? I raised my siblings, and so I'm just a natural caretaker. And so one assignment my therapist gave to me a couple of years ago was she made me make a little pie chart and cut it up into 8 slices, and in one section she had me to put caretaker, you know, and she said, okay, now fill up the rest of the pieces with who you are outside of being a caretaker because that's not just who you are. And so that was hard. It took me 2 years to do it. It took
Really?
me 2 years to fill all those spaces because every role I had given myself was I couldn't use mom because that was caretaking. I couldn't use therapist because that was caretaking. I had to find the other parts of myself, and I had to create those parts too because I realized I hadn't taken a trip without the benefit of the family, right? And stuff like that. So I took a trip to California, by myself, and I was like, I am a traveler, you know. And so I started filling those spaces with different things, that did not have direct connection to me taking care of other people, right?
So could
And it
you,
was a wonderful assignment.
yeah, could you give us, I mean, if you can remember some other examples, because I'm sure people listening to this can probably relate, to being that caretaker that you're talking about and probably don't know where to start with other ideas.
So for me, again, because I've lived my entire life like that, I had to learn first if you're a caretaker and you're alpha by nature as well, you don't ask for help. When you grow up in a household where you were the adult, or you would, or any household that you wasn't able to trust your parents, right? And so a lot of times abuse and neglect households, a lot of times where parents were on drugs, or when parents are just working so much, right? Because they just got to take care of the household. Lots of different situations, of course. But any situation where you are parentified, right, or adultified, where you had to take on the role of an adult rather than just be a kid and be carefree. You tend to not trust adults and people around you because you had to take care of the things. And so then that causes you to become a caretaker because you don't trust nobody to take care of you. So you start making sure everything around you is as controlled as possible, right? And so one of those big things too was like me asking for help. I did not, and I still struggle with it sometimes. And giving myself permission, it is okay to ask for help because you don't depend on people, you don't trust people to follow through. You inadvertently surround yourself with people who you take care of. So the likelihood is that they don't take care of you because that's the position that you've put yourself in, right? And so you have to curate your relationships in such a way that you surround yourself with people who do take care of you as much as you take care of them, who reciprocate. Most of the time, it's a breaking point, and for most people, when change comes at a breaking point, right? Like I'm sick of taking care of everybody else. What
Yeah.
about me?
Yeah.
Um, and so then you start trying to figure out how to make those changes and all that. And so you start to purge people that, are leeches. Because if you take care of people and that is your nature, that's what you're going to attract. And there are some leeches, there are some energy vampires that they will take it if you give it, right? But I often see in social media people say, if you're the strong friend, who takes care of the strong friend? If
Yeah,
somebody's always
absolutely.
calling you for help, who's checking on you, right? So you have to be intentional about choosing those people who will take care of you. Sometimes it happens accidentally, I feel like God in the universe will send you what you need, but you have to be willing to receive it and accept it, right? This is going to be
Absolutely.
challenging. One of my assignments as well from my therapist was go stand next to the broom and ask somebody to help you sweep. And I'm like, that don't make sense. you know, they know you just need to practice asking for help. And that's the most minor thing is no, you don't need help sweeping, but ask anyway. Put yourself in practice of asking for help and being okay if you get a no answer, that's fine. But you just need to practice. It's just that your kids gonna look at you like, Mama, you know how to sweep. What you mean help you sweep? Like, what are you talking about? And just keep saying, I need help sweeping. I need help sweeping.
And I
I
think as
need help.
women,
Just
we can
putting
quite
it into
often,
practice.
yeah, be quite extreme in some cases about wanting to be ultra independent and do everything for everybody and dismiss others of their gifts when they are offering help.
Right. Exactly. And I think some of it is just power and control on our part, right? I need to control the narrative. I need to control the thing. I remember when I was married and we had our youngest kid, and my ex-husband was changing a diaper. And I don't know, he took like half a pack of wipes to change a diaper, right? And I remember like saying, like, look, I'm able to do that with two wipes. Like, what are you doing? Right. And he said, I'm doing it the way I need to do it. I'm doing it in my way. She's clean, right? She's taken care of. I was like, right, you get the job done. He was like, so I'm going to do it in the way I'm doing it. And I'm like, but you're using so many. And he was like, have we ever been out of wipes? And I sat back and I thought about it. And I was like, no, you make sure there's enough wipes, right? You know how much you use. There's never been a time that I went to grab for my little two wipes and they weren't there, right? And so I had to be quiet. I
Yeah,
had to say, you know what? That's his way of doing it. It
yeah,
still gets done. That's me
absolutely.
trying to be controlling, right? Controlling some narrative that it has to be done the way I should do it, or like no, if he used 15 wipes, he used 15 wipes as long as her butt is clean. The
It
end
doesn't
result is the
matter,
same.
you have to pick your battles, don't you? And you don't have to,
Yeah,
if you're offered help, don't try and control. If somebody's going to load the dishwasher for you, don't think they've got to do it your way, and make it wrong for
exactly,
them to do it.
exactly. Right, right. Everybody has their way of getting the thing done, and especially if you're a mother or parent, and you're raising kids. How do we teach them how to be independent people if we're doing all the things for them? And that means when they fold the towel, it's not going to be perfectly folded. And you don't have to nitpicking, like, this corner needs to be. No, however they fold it is how they fold it. Just have them put it in the closet, because that builds confidence, right? You know, but
Absolutely.
I found myself doing that too. No, it needs to be folded in threes. So just put it in the closet, baby. Good job. Good job. You did a good job. Now, if I need to go back and refold it for my own, personal, whatever it is, control or whatever, I might do that. But I definitely wouldn't want that child to see that either, because
No.
they'll feel like it wasn't good enough.
Or your
Right.
partner.
So when you're trying to build that confidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely, for your partner as well. Like, people are different. We're all individuals, and I think if we can respect that part of each other, that we are individuals, and accept it, respect it, and encourage it, right? Because it'd be boring if it was all the same.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the funniest things I heard from a client was that she'd left reluctantly her husband in charge of looking after the boys, and her routine was to give them a bath before bedtime. And what she heard from her husband was that he didn't give him a bath before bedtime, but what he did was, because it was a nice day, he got the hose pipe out in the back garden.
Yes.
and cleaned them that way. And she said, I just had to bite my lip. Having had the conversation with her coach or mentor at that time, that it was okay. It was his way. That's the way he did it, and it was fun.
He
for
got
the
it
kids.
done, and I bet they had more fun doing that than they did being in the tub. Stuff like that. Dads are gonna do things different. Aunties are gonna do things different. Grandparents are definitely gonna do stuff different, right? Because the nature of that relationship might be different, and so allow it. Let them have different experiences. Let them enjoy those different relationships and how they are curated and how they just naturally form organically. Like, everything can't be the same.
So what else can we sort of, I suppose, share in terms of wisdom around the power of choices in healthy relationships? Can you give some practical examples for the listeners here, Shawnnell?
So with regard to choices in relationships, like I said, for my practice, the choice there is choosing to come to therapy and choosing to choose a therapist who actually works with you, that you vibe with, that the relationship is solid, right? And if that relationship does not remain solid, because things change, people grow, right? It's okay for you to change that relationship to someone else, right? With regard to individual relationships with other people and family members, for that matter too, there a big thing happening now is, like, people going no contact with their parents because they've hurt them and they continue to hurt them, right? Because in order to have a relationship, it shouldn't be something that you are hurting me and I'm saying that I'm hurt and you're not willing to change that part, right? If you're willing to, then we can work on that. If you're not, then I have to make the choice of not continuing to talk to you, or minimizing how much I talk to you, or deciding what I talk to you about, right? And so in order to have healthy relationships, boundaries have to be drawn and kept. That is a vital choice. That's a vital choice. Choosing who you continue to fool with. Who do I want around me? Are they encouraging, or are they putting me down? Are they making me feel good about myself or not? And so you can make those choices, and it doesn't matter who they are, whether it be relative, friend, co-worker. If you're on a job that makes you feel like crap, don't stay there. That's an unhealthy relationship, right? Because what we feel affects our entire body and our entire system, right? And so people that are sad often are sick physically.
Yes,
People
absolutely.
PTSD wreaks havoc on your body. And recognizing that connection, and it messes with the spirit, man. It messes with our inner selves, and so then we continue to make bad relationship choices because of how we're feeling about ourselves. We're only going to draw to ourselves that who we are, right? So you have to be able to build the most important relationship is with you.
And I think if we're happier within ourselves, we do see things in a more positive light. So you might see that job in a happier, more positive light if you've worked on yourself and got yourself in a better state just by doing some of these exercises you speak about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's absolute truth. You know, our perspective of things is built around how we feel about ourselves. And so that has to be worked on. And I know it sounds silly for some people, but like it does start with looking at yourself in the mirror and saying those things that are uncomfortable, right? I grew up in a household where, you know, my mother called me fat and reminded me that I was fat all the time. So I saw myself as fat. And when I looked at my high school pictures, I was like, wait a minute, I wasn't fat, I was fat. You know, I don't know what I was talking about, you know, but it was my perspective of myself. So until I started recognizing and being okay with and loving my entire body and no matter what shape, form, or size it's in, right? And looking myself in the mirror and saying, girl, you're fine. Every day, girl, you're fine. You know, and it's the little things. I wake up in the morning and I say, what I'm gonna put on my fine ass today? You know,
I love that.
You know, it's just
okay, Shawnnell, we're coming up to we're coming up to the end of the episode now. So I just wanted to make sure we had time to share your best contact information should any listeners be listening relate to what you're saying and want to make contact with you.
Oh, absolutely. Don't call me because I can't answer the phone. I'm doing a lot of stuff. But my email, well, actually my website. My website is bestchoosenempowerment.com. I just started a podcast, FTBS podcast, and that's you'll see that everywhere as well. I have a beacon link that we can leave in the comments and all that. But the best thing is going to be my website because that's all my contact information is there. So choosenempowerment.com is the best place to find me and find out more about me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And any final words of wisdom to share on the subject of the power of choices in healthy relationships before we close the podcast?
I would just say, like I said a little bit ago, that your best and most important relationship is with yourself. And so find a way to curate that, whether it's listening to podcasts, listening to music. Yeah, there's 1,000 ways because we're the age of information, right? And we have access. And so listen to something that makes you feel good and curate that relationship. And then you can reach out and start finding what you actually need in your other relationships. I'm going to always recommend therapy, and because that's going to help you heal the old stuff so you can find your new self or your true self. Let me say that much. And so take care of yourself first. It's not selfish.
It's not selfish. Absolutely, 100% agree with that. So thank you, Shawnnell, for being so open and sharing all your wisdom and insights today. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This was fun.
So it just leaves me to say that true love starts with opening our hearts. And goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.